I have an example to share it or not to share it?
To share. They said it. I heard them in my ear.
I don't know. This one is a little too much.
There's no such thing. Never too much, like Luther.
If it's too much, too
Exactly. See?
much.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, I can't share that one. Not yet.
To be
Um,
continued.
yeah. I don't know because jobs don't stick for me, so I know it's not that. I think about some like might be upbringing type ish experiences,
Okay.
but I know also perception comes with like age, right? To
Yeah.
some degree. Um, and so let me see. So like as far as like parents and how they raise their children and being in a household where one parent may show up a little more emotionally than the other parent.
Okay.
So this whole idea of me internalizing that to be oh some mm, to internalize that to be that oh this parent has better things to do or what I am doing isn't important to this parent. And although I still think I was correct in feeling that way, but the other side of it is like, well, why was this parent absent? Because they had to go to work. Because you wanted to be in all these school events, Bree, that cost a lot of money.
Expensive. Ain't nothing changed.
So, so maybe perception back then. I think now with age, right, and experience, and having looked at things differently as an adult, I can look at my parents and sort of appreciate, like, okay, this is where they were then. I can meet them where they're at now, and not look past those instances, but I guess reshape them for me to where I can still be present.
And that is going to be something we do talk about further later on a different episode with parents, but we'll get into but no, I think that was a great example because you're right. Like when you become an adult and you perceive your parent or just things that you saw as a child, and now
Mhm.
you have more knowledge, you have more experience, you view it completely different, right? Than little you. So I think that is very, very valid. Um, no, that makes sense. I think high school would have been different for me if my perception was different, like as a whole
Ooh.
package, like just high school and
Really?
even college,
I
like
mean,
that would have been different.
because I don't think I lived my best life in college and undergrad. I don't think I did. I think I was
Oh, I
still in
was
this little
living.
box. I was in this little box, like, oh, you might mess up.
Oh,
Highly
you
involved
should
in
have
church,
came
which
on.
is fine for those who are. But
Yeah.
for me, looking back now, I feel like, damn, like I feel like I missed out on so much. So much.
And just because of the perception, right?
Exactly.
Like, yes, like college was cool. I'm not gonna lie, I was a party in person. I party every day.
Every
I had
day.
8 o'clock
Every weekend.
classes. I partied every day, Sunday through Saturday, every day for probably at least the first 3 years. And then
Okay.
last year I didn't. But I think my perception of myself and how other people I believed were perceiving me is
Yeah.
probably more what held me back. Um, and I think that's the other part of that perception piece is like actually getting used to different perspectives and understanding that they can coexist,
Yeah.
that nobody's necessarily wrong,
Mhm.
and that everybody's perception is their own reality, kind of.
Ooh, I like that. Everybody's perception is their own reality. Do we even need a quote at the end of the episode? Like, can that be it?
It can be, it absolutely can because it's real.
Yeah.
And that right there, once I got comfortable with that, I think that helps with your perspective, and then you just keep getting older. And of course, your perspective changes the more you experience stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, when you said that, my immediate, well, maybe like third immediate thought was like, okay, I can acknowledge different perception and how that may influence this person's behavior, but then do I excuse it? Like,
No,
does
you don't.
accountability come with perception or the
Yes.
acknowledgement of different?
I think when you acknowledge different perspectives, it doesn't mean that you have to excuse a person's behavior. But what I think you have to realize is that your perception is what makes you feel like it's an unexcusable behavior, because your perception is probably saying to you, this person did this because XYZ. And I should probably stop saying that. I do that a lot, XYZ thing. But like, let's be like, give an example. If you are walking down the street and this lady bump into you, like just what do they call shoulder check? You just, and then you're like,
ready.
Oh, this lady got me messed up, right? Like,
ready.
Because in your mind, you like, you saw me, you know, you hit me, you didn't say excuse me. And so what I mean by that is I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's still an assumption, because maybe she didn't see you, maybe she was, and that might not be the best example, but sometimes we give a reason why somebody did something, but it's from our perception, which means that they may not have intentionally done any of that. And I'm a firm believer that intention is what makes a difference on is an excusable or not excusable behavior. I can still say I didn't like something, but to say, Bree, you know you did this, it's like, no, she actually may not have. She could be right here with me experiencing the same thing, but that's not her perception. So I think, to put it more for realistic for people, most people have siblings, some people, let me say that. Siblings. You can interview siblings who grew up in the same house with the same parents, and they will never tell you the same story because their perception is different. And so I think it's not excusing a person's behavior, but you have to consider that if their perception is different than mine, when they did such act, it may not have come from the malicious standpoint that I created that it came from. It doesn't mean it's okay, but if that's not how they viewed it when they were doing it, it does change the narrative. If that makes sense, it's going to change the narrative. So yeah, but no, you can still correct somebody. Like, excuse me. That's why I like to say that to people. I would say, I don't know if you intended to or not, and I'm not saying that, but this is how this made me feel. Like, this is how I took this. And I take ownership because it's still my perception that has me angry. It doesn't matter what you did or your perception, but I have to acknowledge both in order to grow and in order to have appropriate conflict resolution.
That was beautiful.
That's the word. But yeah, so yeah, that's good though. Excusable. How many times have you?
Where's she going with this?
I'm always going somewhere. How many times have you allowed your perception to get you into uncomfortable situations or make chaos where there was none?
How many times?
Just like, how often do you think you do it? Or can you recall like doing that? Like, not an actual number, but like, can you just really recall literally your perception has gotten you into chaos that didn't have to exist?
My perception. I don't know why I'm taking that as like reading into something more than what it actually is.
Well, what does that mean?
And so you end up in like a triangle. But I then blame, like, the other people involved because you should have kept it 100. But I also made up stories because I perceived you to be about me like I was about you.
We're not even gonna go down that one today.
That was a very, very, very long time ago. Before I was a grown full adult. But here we are.
Okay, so you do recall sometimes where your own perception?
Yeah, I recall sometimes chaos perception. Now I can attach that to jobs. Like, I perceive this job being a great opportunity. Must knock my laptop down, girl.
Apparently you causing chaos everywhere you go.
Like, if I perceive this job being a wonderful opportunity for me to advance professionally, right? But to do that, I have to go through all of these things that are not necessarily healthy for me mentally and emotionally. So although this job title or position or whatever is perceivably something of, I don't know, importance on your resume. So I'm putting myself in an unhealthy work situation. I come home stressed. I can barely sleep. Sunday rolls around. I get in this depressive state because I got to go to this job I don't really like. but I'm perceiving it to be a wonderful step for me professionally. So I'm gonna stick it out.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I think through that perspective, I would definitely attach it to work or jobs.
Okay, well, I'm about to come through and bring chaos all up in this episode. So let me ask you this.
We're ready, I think. Oh gosh.
Have that ever, so I like how you applied it to work, right? Because I can definitely see that. People probably do that all the time.
Yep.
What about my favorite that I think happens, and I'm going to see if this happened to you. What about in friendships?
In friendships? What way?
Mm-hmm.
Say more.
Not necessarily for you, but so like I've seen times where people are friends.
Yeah.
And they have a blow up or they stop talking for a little bit. But a lot of times it is based off a perception. So it's like maybe your friend did not call you this day. And all of a sudden it's like she's acting funny. Your perception, she's acting funny. She was on social media. Like you go down a whole path. Not me, because I don't have time for that. My friends are busy. But most of my friends are busy. So, but you go down this spiral, and in that moment, you may even, I don't know, people are different, right? So some people are a little more raw. So they may even just go text their friend, like, girl, you acting funny, blah, blah, blah. But it's like in that moment, that was your perception. And you have to acknowledge that you never thought about your friend's perception of what may be going on. You took it offensively immediately versus because that was just how you perceived it. How you perceive this person not doing this action meant a million things to you that it did not necessarily mean to them. I see that sometimes in friendships, whether that's people I've seen like with their friends, you know, or at work when coworkers tell me about their friends or clients even. Like, what have you ever experienced that? Whether you were on the receiving end or not, like somebody saying you're acting a certain way, you're like, I haven't done anything.
Yeah. Maybe not so much. I don't know if it would be friendships. But I've gotten the whole, oh, I haven't heard from you in a few weeks. You acting funny. And I'm normally sarcastic as hell. So I'm like, yep. Silence resumed. Right? So I don't know. Because then I also wonder, like, why you ain't busy? Like, what are you doing?
But perception. So even y'all different perceptions, right? Like
exactly. You could be busy, but you made time to reach out.
Yes, and then you were like sarcastic.
Exactly.
And because you took theirs in your mind, probably being an asshole, kind of coming at you, but that's not even necessarily how they may have been intentionally approaching it. It really could not say I don't know that person, but it literally could have just been somebody saying, I haven't heard from you in a few weeks.
But then why is the you acting funny part for me?
You acting funny? Like was it a question or a statement?
It don't matter. It was a text, so I attached.
Bam! Now we back. There we go. There we go. Full circle at all times. That's my point, right? Because think about me. You know me, right? So if I send you a message like that, do you know how many ways that tone could have been? I'm like, oh, you acting funny, huh? I'll come down there and get you.
But that's different. Because you cancel me as a friend all the time, and I'd be like, she lying.
But I'm just saying, in that moment, that was like perfect example of like y'all both having different perceptions and how it could impact the interaction. And those are moments where it's like, it wasn't on either end. It may have never been that deep, but now it is that deep because of how I have perceived, how you perceive me, and vice versa.